Hey folks, your neighborhood genderqueer relative here, and today I am dressed up like I came straight out of the movie Knives Out to show you how to make some of your own crockpot chili, because I'm sure that scene from one of the best holiday movies is making you crave a big bowl. So, first of all, we have to make this a little bit easy, right? Personally, my parents grew up in Texas, so I absolutely put beans in my chili, to many people's chagrin. But I also, because I'm making crockpot chili, I'm going to go ahead and use canned beans. So you're going to need a can of black beans, a can of kidney beans, 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I like the kind that have garlic and onion in them for extra flavor. And you can either do 2 cans of the black beans instead of 1, or I happen to have some leftover pinto beans in the fridge that I'm going to throw into this so that it's a 3-bean chili. You could also just use a can of pinto beans. Now, as always, we're going to start off with an onion and a big pile of garlic. This is 9 or 10 cloves worth. I'm going to slice this onion up. And I will tell you that you should not watch my videos if you are trying to learn exactly how to cut things up, because that would be embarrassing for both of us. But you're gonna go ahead and like loose mince this onion, and you can definitely do a couple of things. Like you can freeze onions for just a few minutes to keep them from making you cry. You can also run cold water at the same time to keep them from making you cry. I absolutely always forget to do those things, so this might be my most tearful video yet. Or we might get lucky, we'll see. Anyway, so you mince up the onion loosely, using the soul of the onion to get out all of those tears you've been holding back this entire year. Then you kind of smash, roll up your sleeves 18 times, you smash the garlic with the flat of the blade. Please be careful and don't cut your palm doing this. When you smash the garlic, it releases some chemicals that add to the flavor of the garlic. Oh, you cry a little more like I'm doing right now. And also the overall, like the chemical goodness of the garlic, like what it does for your body, is better if you smash it first and you bruise the garlic. Mincing it without bruising it does not release those chemicals. Oh, excuse me while I wipe my eyes. Anyway, cutting onions is a good way to cry if you are otherwise incapable of crying, for example, because you're taking too much testosterone. Just a rough chop, that smashed garlic. You can mince it if you want, but I think garlic is amazing. So I like finding nice big chunks of garlic in my soup. Put a little bit of oil just to protect from sticking in the bottom of your crock pot. Mine is inconveniently right here off screen. Put a little bit in there, and then kind of pile your onions and garlic inside. Now, I have mentioned before that I'm mostly vegetarian, so this is going to be a vegetarian chili. However, I'm going to use a meat substitute to give it the meaty flavor that most people associate with chili. So I have a plant-based ground here. You can use several different brands, but my favorite is this Good and Gather brand. Beyond Meat's also pretty good. But first, I'm going to finish assembling everything else in the pot. The thing about plant meat is that it breaks down the same way that regular meat does over time, but you don't really want that texture to break down. So when you're adding it to a soup or something like that, you don't add it right at the beginning of the soup. You let the soup do its thing, and then you add it like close to the end. So I've got those leftover pinto beans I was telling you about that I'm going to go ahead and pour into this crock pot. And it's more like half a can, but it's fine. And I'm also going to take the only one of these jars that has a pop top, unfortunately. And I am assisted today by two 9-year-olds who are making all kinds of sad faces at me. You can pour the juice off the beans or not, because either way you're gonna want some liquid in this chili, right? So I'm pouring the black beans in, and then I'm going to set a 9-year-old to open a can. Aww. This 9-year-old is going to use the can opener, because unfortunately not all my cans have pop tops. Okay. To undo. There you go. Crank the can while I'm rinsing out the other can. Always make sure you rinse your cans out before you recycle them. Come on, keep going.
I'm trying.
As I said before, it's a good idea to use tomatoes that already have like onion and garlic in them. I do not suggest that you get like pasta ready tomatoes. They will taste wrong. You do not want your chili to taste like pasta.
That's a lot of onion.
Okay, next. Next I need the kidney beans. Kidney beans. Oh, here are the kidney beans. Thank you. I will just crank the rest of these cans myself. If you have trouble opening cans, always look for the pop tops, or if you can, or can't, get an electric can opener. They will work just fine. They only take up a little space on the counter, and they'll save your hands. Take my own advice, I hear me sing. And also magically appearing tomatoes. Now, once you have all of your tomatoes and beans on the same place, and with or without the help of two errant 9-year-olds, make sure you stir everything up. And then you're going to take a look at this, and you probably do not have very much liquid in here. And so what you're going to do is you're going to add a couple of cups of broth. Now, my favorite broth to use is from the Asian grocery store. It's basically a vegetarian soup broth.
Hashtag my mom is the best cook ever.
Okay. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, kid. This is the wrong jar. Anyway, this stuff, it's by Lee's brand, which is, they make excellent broths, and a bunch of their broths and things are actually vegetarian. Now, normally you're supposed to add the broth to boiling water, but since we're going to let this cook for a while, we're just going to kind of cheat it and put the powder on top, and then add water, because it's going to incorporate properly anyway.
May my mom be the best cook.
Okay, we don't need to make up songs. Thank you. Anyway, just a reminder, my pronouns are they, them, and so are these 9-year-olds, both of them. Alright, so this calls for 2 teaspoons per cup. I'm going to put just 2 big heaping spoons. This is probably not a teaspoon, but it's the measurement that I have. And then I'm going to go ahead and put 2 cups of broth in here and take a look at it. Or excuse me, 2 cups of water to make 2 cups of broth.
Hot water, cold.
It does not need to be hot water because I'm going to be turning on the crock pot. It would need to be hot water if I was trying to make the broth before I did this part. And honestly, it looks a little bit too dry still. Mainly, now this is not a huge amount of chili that I'm making, obviously, but I have 6 people to feed here, so we'll eat most of it. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 more cup so that I have enough liquid for it to evaporate as we go. And then I'm going to add 1 more heaping spoon. And if you were to use fresh beans and fresh tomatoes, you wouldn't have to add as much broth, but you would have had to soak the beans and all this other stuff. So there's that. All right. Now this part is ready to go sit in the crock pot on low for like 4 hours. So that's that part. Now the next part is getting the meat ready for the chili to go in. So what you're going to do is you need a pan and you need the plant meat. Behold. Now you'll see that this looks exactly like ground beef in the package. It's clearly made for folks who are trying to convert rather than for folks who have been vegetarian for a very long time. Either way, it's going to smell good. I will say that when I say it smells good, I meant cooked. When you open this package up and you smell it, much like ground beef, it smells kind of gross. It smells raw. So you do, because plant meat is not self-oiling very much, you do need a bit of oil, like a pretty good amount of oil in the pan to get it started. You're going to take this whole package of meat, dump it in to the pan, be smarter than I am, and pull off the little bits. Excuse me, more observant than I am. Intelligence is not a factor of observation. Go this way, please.
As you can see, my mom.
Stop helping. Stop helping. Here.
You want to help.
Yes, but not like that.
Look, you faced it the way I am. I was right here, look.
Okay.
Look what you did.
Now you can have this very dramatic bit here. Some very dramatic 9-year-olds who are going to continue to move off camera.
Yes.
Because they want to be YouTube famous, but they don't get to be YouTube famous today. Anyway, so you're going to go ahead and turn this up on medium heat, and you're going to start working on browning it. And just like you would with other ground meats, if you have experience cooking them, you kind of do this cutting motion to chop it up into bits as you cook it. You're going to brown it thoroughly, and then once it is thoroughly browned, you're going to add about a half a cup, this is a pound, so about a cup of double strength, better than bouillon, not really beef. This is no beef base. It makes vegetarian food taste like beef. Obviously, if you have actual beef and you're not making this into a vegetarian recipe, you can skip the part where you flavor the beef like beef. The other element that you really need that I almost forgot to tell you about is chili powder. So I use a combination of chili powders. There's a number of chili powders available, obviously. The main thing about chili powder is it has at least chili, like chopped chilies in it. It should also have cumin and oregano and paprika, and it may or may not have like garlic in it as well. I use a combination of mild chili powder and medium chili powder from Savory Spice. You can use other things if you like. Anyway, you're definitely going to put a ton of this into your chili before you're done. Alright, so I put about 4 tablespoons of each in my chili. That's going to go, like I said, for about 4 hours, and we're going to focus on getting this cooked. And we're back, and as you can see, the meat has browned now to a nice cooked texture. And it's chopped up all small, just exactly like you would have ground beef. And now what we're going to do is turn the heat down to like a medium low. And we're going to take this mixed up not beef bouillon, and pour it over it. It's gonna sizzle a little bit. Be careful not to overdo this stuff because it gets very salty very fast. In fact, I won't add a whole lot of salt to the rest of the chili because of it. But you're gonna mix this up real good and let it kind of simmer for a minute and just absorb, because the plant meat will in fact absorb that beef bouillon and take on that flavor really nicely. Now the last step before you can kind of leave everything to go for several hours is I like to eat my chili over rice. I realize that makes me a non-traditionalist. However, I also like to use a rice cooker to take care of that problem. You can use any kind of rice that you would like to eat your chili over, but I like to use short grain white rice for most functions. So I'm actually going to make some extra today because I want to be able to make fried rice tomorrow. So while normally I would probably only do about 2 cups uncooked, I'm going to do 5 cups. And when you're using a rice cooker, of course, it's important to use the measurement cup because it's not quite a whole cup of rice. That was 3. This is 4. And then this is 5. Now, if I was using this rice to make sushi or something, I would rinse it really thoroughly and make sure I got all the bits off. But in this case, because I'm not, I'm just going to rinse it a couple of times. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to rinse it. You'll hear the water running as I do. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to pour some water in here and gently slosh it around. This is just for a basic rinse versus, again, a really thorough rinse. And then you'll pour the cloudy water off, and you'll do that a couple of times before you prep your rice cooker. Again, because I'm making 5 cups of rice, I'm going to do this to just below the 5-cup line with the rice in it, as I said. And then I'm going to pop it into my rice cooker back here, which of course you can't see. Now, I have a rice cooker that was only like $30. It's an Aroma rice cooker. It's not super fancy, but it has a timer function, which saves me worlds of headache. So right now, I'm going to put it on a timer, and I'm going to set it for 5 hours because it's currently 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm planning to have my Crockpot meal go until about 4 or so, and so if I set this for 5 hours, the rice will be done just in time for dinner. Now that my rice cooker is set for its timer, I'm checking on my plant-based meat right here, and it has absorbed almost all of this liquid. Now I'm just going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to put a lid on this pan, and in about 4 hours, when my chili has started to really incorporate all its flavors, that's when I'm going to add the meat, and that'll be in there for the last hour of the chili cooking. So here's the lid. And we'll check back in a few hours. Hey friends, we're back, and it's been about 3 hours or so now. So now we're going to go ahead and mix the meat in with the chili and get that going. Now remember, this is plant-based meat. It looks exactly like ground beef though. And I've got this crock pot that's been bubbling along for quite a while. And I'm going to pour all of this, including all the beef stock that I used to flavor this meat, into the pot. going to stir it up real good. And then I'm going to taste it for flavor and see whether I need to add more spices. You can come with me. So we've got this nice chili bubbling along. And we're going to stir it up. And if you like your chili a little thicker, now is a good time to add some tomato paste. It's pretty liquidy, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And just as a note, if you add the bean juice from the cans, sometimes you can avoid this. I'm going to squeeze in what's probably about 6 tablespoons full of tomato paste, and I'm going to stir this up really good to make sure that it gets in there thoroughly incorporated. And you can see, if you look close, that this looks like a nice meaty chili at this point. Now I'm going to taste it. It has a nice flavor to it, but it's not as strong as I want it to be yet. So I'm going to add 2 things at this point. I'm going to add some more chili powder, but I'm also going to add cumin. So I'm going to add what is probably about 2 more tablespoons of chili powder. And then I'm going to grab the cumin. Cumin is one of the best things for giving robustness to a savory dish along this flavor palette. And I have put probably closer to 2 tablespoons of cumin just now in here. So I'm going to stir this up. And now we're going to let it continue cooking until my rice is done, which is about another hour. Rice. Hey friends, and we're back. Finally time to serve up the chili. Now, I have the rice here and the chili is all ready. And so I'm going to take my rice scooper and I'm just going to give myself a nice little helping of rice here. And I'm also going to serve up a good scoop of chili. Yep, and of course, topping that all off with some cheese. Shredded Colby Jack is my favorite. This is Cheddar Jack. And just like that, you've got a beautiful bowl of chili, which mostly looks like cheese. Now, just so you know, my partner would prefer to never eat chili over rice, and so, because I respect their preferences, I'm going to go ahead and just scoop them out in a nice hearty serving. So you can see it before the cheese. Don't try this at home. Put plenty of cheese on top. And then top it off with some green onions. Enjoy your chili.